The night was silent, but the silence was not peaceful. In the dark forest, a small tribe of humans gathered around a weak fire. Their faces were thin, their eyes hollow with hunger. The Ice Age had stolen the animals, and even the roots and berries were gone. Every breath of wind felt like the earth itself was warning them. Something terrible was coming. Among them sat Kale, the strongest hunter. He gripped his stone spear, but his mind was restless. He knew what no one dared to say aloud. It was not the wolves, not the bears, not the cold that threatened them most. It was the tribe itself. That night, a scream cut through the cave. Men rushed outside with torches, but what they found froze their blood. One of their own lay dead, his body torn apart, bones cracked open. The marks were not from animals. The footprints around the body belonged to humans. Fear spread like fire through dry grass. Who had done this? Why? The tribe looked at each other with suspicion. Friends turned into strangers. Brothers avoided brothers. In their eyes, Kale saw something new, something more dangerous than hunger. By morning, whispers filled the air. We must strike first before we are struck. But who was the enemy? They were all one people, or at least they had been. And so in the heart of winter, when survival demanded unity, another kind of battle began. Not against beasts or the cold, but against their own kind. The first war had begun, and it was hidden not in the forest, but in human hearts. The fire burned low, its smoke curling into the cave roof like a warning no one could read. The tribe sat in a circle, their shadows long and trembling on the stone walls. No one spoke. They only stared at the bones lying in the dirt. Stripped clean, split open for marrow, Lyra, the eldest woman, whispered what everyone feared. It was not an animal. Her words broke the silence like a spear breaking bone. Eyes turned sharply, searching faces in the firelight. Every man, every woman, even the children, suddenly all seemed like suspects. Kyle gripped his spear tighter. He had hunted beasts his whole life. He knew the claw marks of wolves, the teeth of bears, the cut of hunger. What he saw on the bones was none of these. It was deliberate. Human hands had done this. The tribe began to whisper louder now, voices sharp with fear.
Who among us?
Who eats their own blood? The cave, once a shelter, now felt like a trap. That night no one slept. Some clutched their children, others held weapons close. And Kyle noticed something that chilled him more than the winter air. The hungriest eyes no longer looked into the forest for food. They lingered on the living. By dawn, the tribe was divided. Some wanted to leave the cave, fearing the predator lived inside. Others wanted to stay, fearing what waited outside in the snow. The firelight flickered, shadows twisting like ghosts. Trust was gone. Suspicion ruled, and in the silence of the cave, one truth grew clearer with every passing hour. The dead man would not be the last. The forest was silent as the hunters moved through the snow. Their spears were ready, but their eyes were not fixed on deer or elk. They were watching each other. Every step felt heavier. Every shadow seemed alive. Kyle walked at the front, but he could feel their stares burning into his back. He knew what hunger could do. He had seen wolves turn on their own pack when prey was scarce. Now he feared humans were no different. When they returned to the cave empty-handed, the mood grew darker. Children cried from hunger. The fire cracked, echoing in the tense silence. No one spoke of the dead man anymore, but the memory of his broken bones was there, unspoken, heavy. That night, another man vanished. No sound, no struggle, only a trail in the snow that ended near the river. When the hunters followed it, they found scraps of flesh on the rocks, gnawed and bloody. Fear became suspicion, and suspicion became hatred. The tribe began to split. Some whispered in corners, their voices sharp, their eyes sharper. Others stayed silent, watching, waiting. Gale realized it was no longer about survival. It was about who would strike first. Trust was dead. Every face looked dangerous. A mother clutched her child, afraid even of her neighbors. Friends avoided meeting each other's eyes. And in that silence, a new kind of hunger grew. One that fed not on meat, but on fear. Kyle saw it clearly. The tribe was becoming its own predator. The danger was no longer outside. It was inside, sitting by the fire, breathing the same cold air. The war was no longer coming. It had already begun, silently and from within. The scream shattered the night. It was not the cry of an animal, but the voice of a man, sharp, desperate, then suddenly cut short. Kyle and the others rushed out of the cave, torches blazing against the dark. The snow glowed red beneath the firelight. On the stones lay a body, twisted and broken, blood spreading across the ground like ink. A stone axe lay beside it, slick with fresh stains. For a moment no one moved. The fire cracked, the wind howled, but the tribe stood frozen. Then the shouting began. Fingers pointed. Accusations cut the air like knives. It was him. No, it was her. Lies, you killed him. Fear had turned to fury. Spears rose, voices roared, and the cave, once their refuge, became a battleground. Kyle tried to stop them, but his words were drowned by rage. Two men clashed, their spears striking with the sound of breaking bone. A woman swung her club, striking down one of her own. Children screamed, their cries lost in the chaos. When the fighting ended, silence returned, but it was a silence filled with death. Blood stained the cave floor. 3 bodies lay still, their lifeless eyes staring into the dark. Kyle stood among them, his chest heaving, his hands trembling. He knew what this meant. There was no turning back now. The tribe was broken. The enemy was no longer hunger or the beasts of the forest. It was themselves. And from that night onward, blood would not only be spilled by prey, it would stain human hands. On human stone, the first war had claimed its price. And it was only the beginning. The snow never stopped falling. The world outside was silent, but inside the cave, silence meant danger. The survivors no longer sat together. They kept to corners, clutching weapons, watching each other with eyes that no longer trusted. Kyle felt the change. Once they had been hunters of beasts, now they were hunters of themselves. Hunger had carved away the bonds of family, tribe, and kinship. What remained was something colder, sharper, predators wearing human faces. At night, whispers traveled through the dark. Mothers warned their children not of wolves or bears, but of men who ate men. Fireside tales grew into legends, creatures who wore the skin of humans but carried the hunger of demons. And the most frightening part was this: these monsters were not myths. They were real. They shared the same fire, the same blood. Generations passed, but the stories remained. Children grew up hearing them, and fear was carved into memory. Some said whole tribes vanished because they turned on each other. Others said the cursed ones survived, hiding in shadows, waiting for their hunger to rise again. Kishel saw it happening even now. The stronger took from the weaker. Those too weak to fight disappeared in the night, never seen again. No proof, no word spoken, but the bones always told the truth. The tribe no longer feared the wild outside. They feared the wild within. And from these nights of horror, from these whispered tales and blood-stained stones, something new was born. The first taboo. But even as rules were spoken, even as fireside warnings spread, Kale wondered, could laws kill hunger? Or would the predators always rise again, hidden in human skin? The fire burned low, throwing long shadows across the cave walls. Only one man remained from the old days, an elder with a scar running across his face. His name was Doran, and his silence carried more weight than any spear. The younger hunters often asked him about the past, about the nights when humans first turned on one another. But Doran never answered. He only stared into the fire, his eyes hollow, as if trapped in memories too dark to speak. One night when the storm outside howled like angry spirits, a child dared to ask again, "What happened, Elder? Why do we fear our own?" Doran finally spoke, his voice rough as stone. He told them of the screams, of brothers turning against brothers, of blood spilled on the cold cave floor. He told them of the hunger that twisted men into beasts, and of the silence that followed when trust died. His words chilled the listeners more than the winter wind. For these were not just stories, they were memories. He had seen the first humans who became predators of their own kind, The fire crackled, but no one dared move. When Doran's voice faded, silence filled the cave again. The children clung to their mothers. The men tightened their grip on their spears, and in that heavy silence, one thought haunted them all. If it happened once, could it happen again? Doran closed his eyes, his scar catching the firelight. He was the last witness of a truth too dark to forget and too dangerous to ignore. The tribe slept uneasily that night, knowing the shadows of the past were still alive, hiding within their own blood. Centuries passed, and the stories became whispers. Caves collapsed, fires burned out, and the first tribes vanished into time. Yet the bones remained. Buried deep in the earth, they carried silent scars, cut marks sharp as stone, fractures that spoke louder than any legend. Archaeologists in later ages would uncover them. They would hold these bones in their hands and see the truth written in marrow. The first humans had not only hunted animals, they had hunted each other. But for those who lived in that time, the truth was never buried. Around fires, elders warned children not to trust every smile, not to forget the hunger that once ruled men's hearts. These were not just ghost stories. They were warnings carved into memory. Kyle's name was lost to history, but the fear he lived through remained. It lingered in every tale of monsters hiding among men, in every taboo whispered in the dark. The world had changed, but the shadow of that hunger never fully died. Even now, when people look into history's darkest corners, they see the same question staring back. Did the hunger ever truly end, or does it still wait hidden in us? The bones say it all. Humanity's first enemy was not the cold, not the beasts, not the earth itself. It was the reflection in their own eyes, and as long as humans walk the earth, that shadow walks with them. The legacy of the first predators is not just history. It is us.